The movie Mississippi Burning, released in 1988, tells the true story of horrific crimes committed in the summer of 1984. That summer, civil rights activists had launched a concerted effort to register Black Americans to vote. This movie focuses on the investigation of the disappearance of 3 civil rights workers, 2 of whom were Jewish and 1 of whom was Black, by FBI agents Rupert Anderson and Alan Ward.
Down the road. I think that's where we should start.
Well, you can talk to them, but they won't talk to you. These people have to live here long after we're packed up and gone. They'd rather bite their tongue off than talk to us.
You want your boy in on this?
When Anderson and Ward arrive on the scene, they are met with resistance from the locals they try to interview, many of whom are under the influence of local law enforcement, which is saturated with members of the Klu Klux Klan.
In fact, you know what I think it is? It's a publicity stunt cooked up by that Martin Luther King fella. Come on.
The investigation only gains ground as the sheriff's wife lets the investigators know that the men were murdered, allowing Anderson and Ward to locate their remains. When the sheriff discovers this, his wife is brutally beaten. In order to elicit a confession, the investigators arrange for the mayor to be kidnapped and questioned, a clear violation of his right to fair treatment under the law. As a result, the information he divulges is found to be inadmissible in court, but still furthers the investigation in other ways. Nevertheless, the agents continue to use questionable and illegal tactics to elicit confessions from the Klansmen, and eventually meet with success. Tragically, none of the guilty men are ever convicted of murder, despite the tactics used against them by the FBI, and receive prison sentences of only a few years each.
Orientals nor Negroes, because we're here to protect Anglo-Saxon democracy and the American way.
This film tells stories of 2 different sets of abuses, those by local law enforcement and the KKK against the 3 civil rights activists and African American population in the town, as well as those of the FBI against those implicated in the case. The case is not only an example of how disadvantaged populations have been violated in the past, but also exemplifies how quickly the lines between good and evil can become blurry when the laws put in place to protect human rights are disregarded. Fortunately, the real story is more hopeful. These abuses by the FBI were not recorded in the factual case, but the FBI has stated that in the end, the Klan's homicidal ways backfired. The murders galvanized the nation and provided impetus for passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964 on July 2nd, indicating that in the end, the nation chose to do better, even in the face of such naked hatred and destruction.